Assalamu alaikum. You're watching Views and News, and I'm Faisal Rahman live from our Islamabad studios. Today we'll be talking about this very important subject, and that is about the rise in COVID-19 cases in Pakistan. Not only in Pakistan, whether you talk about France, yesterday I was watching the news and they said, well, they have shut down the bars and most of the restaurants. You talk about United States of America, certain precautionary measures are in place. You talk about other European countries, same issues are being faced by them as well. But when it comes to India and Pakistan, interestingly, so far we have been quite successful in controlling COVID-19 in Pakistan. But when it comes to India, obviously the number of patients that's rising. Last night, when they calculated the 24-hour survey, it said 78,000 people got COVID-19, and these were the reported cases, and around 1,200 of them died also. Now, when we talk about Pakistan, one thing which is very important, and that is about the overall philosophy of COVID. Since the lockdown was taken off, most of the people thought that most likely COVID is off as well. Well, that is not the case. You still need to take all the mandatory precautions. You need to follow the protocols. That is a must. You wear a mask, do not touch your hands, do not touch your face with your hands primarily, keep washing them, maintain a social distance or maybe a physical distance of 6 feet or maybe more if possible, and just try to carry on that way. Because if you're not wearing masks, if you're not taking the precautionary measures, most likely this is going to increase. I'm not sure whether it's the winter season that is giving us these alarming numbers, or is it the way of life we have adopted. Now, this is very, very serious, and we'll be talking about that because it is believed that the second wave could be in place. So today we'll be talking about the COVID-19 situation in Pakistan. We'll be talking about the Prime Minister's statement where he said that I urge everyone to wear masks. This is what the Prime Minister also said, and he said that this is one of the most important precautionary measure. Marriage halls, restaurants becoming COVID hubs. This is what was stated by the Federal Minister Asad Umar, and this is a reality because when you talk about the SOPs, they're not in place. Social protection amid COVID-19 crisis. How to manage that? That is also something very important. Whereas the good news is that the WHO chief hails Pakistan anti-COVID-19 efforts, but we still need to move on in the right direction. We need to have certain precautionary measures in place. Now, that is what the key is. To talk about this, let me introduce you to our panelists. We have with us in our own studio, on my right is Rauf Hassan Saab, who is a senior analyst. Thank you very much, Rauf Saab, for taking out your time and talking to PTV World, sir. We'll be talking to Dr. Numan Zafar Saab, who is based in the United States of America, and he's going to join us on Skype. Thank you very much, sir. Dr. Saab is an infectious diseases expert. And we'll be also talking to Irfan Ghauri Saab, who is a senior journalist, and we'll also try to learn from him that what exactly the situation is like in Islamabad and Rawalpindi at the moment, and obviously, generally, Pakistan. Rauf Hassan Saab, something very alarming. I still remember we did so many shows, sir, even in the month of March and April when this COVID menace, I would say, it started off and took over Pakistan. We were lucky that I mean, the total number of COVID cases were not that high, but still over 300,000 is a very alarming number. And these are the ones which were reported. Then the other measures taken by the government, for example, smart lockdown, I think proved to be something very practical. But sir, ever since the smart lockdown, because of the economic conditions, was lifted, people thought maybe COVID-19 is over. And now the numbers are alarming again. Your take, sir.
COVID-19 is not over, and it is not going to be over in a long time, by the way. So, according to many analyses, humanity may have to learn to live with it for a long time to come. So, that's very unfortunate. You've said so much, in your introductory remarks. Faisal, we are what we are, a bunch of very indisciplined people. And I think, the advent of COVID and the way we have handled it has proven it yet again that we remain not just indisciplined, but extremely, extremely indisciplined. Even at the apex of this COVID scourge in Pakistan, you remember the way we conducted ourselves, at shops, and those restaurants were of course closed, but even if you were to go to some of the leading shops here in Islamabad and elsewhere, and in spite of repeated requests by the government circles, they were not observing the SOPs. And even at certain places, I thought that, the shopkeepers, in a way insisted, that,
Even
that,
in
that
the
people
medical
come and
stores,
observe.
the
Yeah.
shopkeepers and the salesperson, all these people used to wear masks. Now nobody does.
Nobody
Sir, I have
does.
entered myself in a shop because my mask was in the car. So I, in fact, asked him that, is it okay to enter? He said, sir, just come in. So the SOPs are not in place.
No, they were not in place. They are not in place, and I feel that the problem lies principally with the kind of people that we are. Now that they have decided to open the schools, they have decided to open the restaurants, they have decided to open the marriage halls and such other places, basically. And I have personally gone and visited a couple of them. Well, there is no, and there's nothing called SOPs there. There's nothing called necessity to wear a mask. There's nothing, nobody there actually checking and or guiding people how to do it. So the Prime Minister's warning, that a second surge, maybe on its way, should possibly awaken us, from our slumber, and we should take heed and we should start observing the SOPs.
Sir, we should
and
also
so many
learn
other
from our
factors.
neighbors, Iran and India. Look at the number of COVID cases there in these two countries.
But simultaneously, I feel, that the government's decision to open up marriage halls and such other places possibly was a little hasty. Because by now the government must have come to understand the kind of people that we are or the way we behave. So I think, maybe it could have been delayed a little. For I understand the economic realities. I think that has been one of the fundamental principles of the government's policy in these trying and testing times. The compassion factor, which the Prime Minister has demonstrated again and again, I fully understand and appreciate it. But then, you have to care for the collective good of the society.
Yeah.
And I think the collective good did not lie in opening up the marriage halls and restaurants and such other places. I think possibly we should have waited another month or a couple of months and seen through whether there's going to be another surge of COVID-19 during the winter season. I hope it doesn't come. I hope it does not come. I have spoke to a couple of people, who are sort of, in the policy formulation sector, and they feel that yes, it is feared that it may be there, but say there's nothing can be said definitively. So I hope and pray that, like in the past, I think we have fared much better. You talked about Pakistan and India in the same breath. I feel that that's a little inappropriate in the sense, that we have done so much better than India. India is COVID is a huge issue in India at this moment in time. They have lost more than 70,000 people to COVID. We have lost only about 6,000 people. And if we had been a little more careful, if we had been a little more disciplined, possibly the fatalities would have been even lower than that. But we're one of the 5 or 6 countries in the world, which are on top actually in having handled this scourge. The WHO, like you said, they have been very appreciative of the way Pakistan and the government of Pakistan has handled it. So while giving credit to the government, I feel that this was a little too soon. Maybe we should have waited another couple of months.
And this is what everybody is saying, sir.
And even under the present circumstances, I feel they should review their decision, particularly schools and marriage halls and restaurants, these places. And if they need to close them down, I think they should not hesitate to do it.
That's because these would be tough decisions, but I think in the larger interest of the people of Pakistan. Now, Dr. Saab, let me also bring this very important issue because I've got so many questions for you. Dr. Saab, first of all, tell us, because normally we thought that if the weather is going to get different, like in the summers, we were much better placed, I would say, in terms of number of COVID cases. But now a lot of people believe that maybe it's the winter season. Is it the habits that we adopt in the winter, sir, that we do not wash our hands as many times as we do in summers? We do not take showers as often as we do in summers? Or by the way, in general, the way we keep ourselves clean, that is much more possible in summers, again, as compared to winters. Is that one of the reasons? Or you believe this COVID virus, this winter season suits this virus to in fact, grow and glow?
Assalamu alaikum. Thank you very much for having me here. Actually, all the factors are together. One, you can have winter definitely is the time when you have all these infections going on. Because most of the people are indoors, and that's why the infection spreads very fast. You're not sitting mostly outdoors because there's less chance of spreading the infection outdoors. But as far as this is concerned, that in summer it just disappears, it does not disappear. It always there, and that's why it comes back in winter. It's just the spread is low. Um, we are just too many hours inside during winter, the same room, the particles which we breathe out and actually stay in the air. And if we don't have ventilation in the room, especially in the winter time, that's the main reason you get the
Yeah.
infection. Summertime, this is different. Summertimes, most of the people go outside and it's hot. Again, outside services, the heat does help. So the heat kills the virus if it's outside in the surface. If it doesn't kill, it's inside the room. But this is a general overall. If you look up all the viruses, whether adenoviruses, whether coronavirus, like other coronaviruses, there are like 7 types. So even COVID-19 all of them has the same issue. So as soon as the September and October starts, we start to see the rise of cases, and mostly because people are indoors and outside surfaces are not, the viruses are not being killed by the sun. So these are the major factors during winter time. And again, our behavior matters. If we are behaving that this infection is there, because regular infections you can play without, play with them. I said, okay, you're gonna have sore throat, you can have fever a little bit for a few days. And again, that's true for COVID-19 also. Like about 85% of the people are gonna have a mild disease. That doesn't mean that we're gonna take it lightly, because the problem is you're gonna have a light and you have like I call it a light strain and a wild strain. Nobody knows you're going to get a wild one or you're going to get a mild one. Pakistan, alhamdulillah, is still million times in better condition than United States. I'm here and it's still very bad. We never went down. We still have United States have 40 to 50,000 cases per day. That's sad. But Pakistan is still million times better. And I think means Pakistanis should means thank to Allah. And number two, I think as a Pakistani, we have to have take some responsibility, and just don't leave everything on Allah's hand. I mean, we have to do our job at least. And again, doing our job means staying a little bit far away, at least 6 to 8 feet, washing hands, using hand sanitizers, and the main thing which really prevents this infection is the mask. Now, after all these months, we have been even talking, not even N95, just even plain surgical mask, just even plain clothing. I have encountered so many corona patients in the last 6, 7 months. The only way I survived is putting a mask. Even if the patient is actively COVID positive, just having a simple mask actually prevented the transmission of the disease. So it means that just putting even a simple mask helps a lot. And that's how I survived so far. Like seeing like some weeks, I've seen like 40 to 50 corona patients a week. And I'm sitting in the same exam room and they're sitting with me and I didn't get it. And because only reason is we both are wearing the mask. That's what I'm trying to emphasize on one thing, that just wearing the mask is a big deal to prevent this infection. So as far as the treatment, again, we still are a few months away from the vaccine. So until then, my request is that we have to be careful. We have crossed or we have suffered all these months. Just don't drop the ball. We say, remember, there's like a very famous slang. They said, drop the ball in the end. So I
Yeah.
think some people are dropping the ball in the end. That's what is happening in United States, and that's what is happening all over, because it's like everybody's tired and fatigued of hearing the virus and like doing the SOPs. But again, just
Now,
few
now
more
Dr.
months
Saab,
until we have vaccine.
a quick comment on one very important issue, and that is about the COVID load. We always end up hearing about the COVID load, and we understand that if somebody like you is working in a hospital, seeing so many COVID patients, and God forbidden, if you end up catching it, there is a probability that you might end up having a very high COVID load as compared to somebody maybe who just passed by and end up, getting it. Is it true, sir?
Yes. So if you're just passing by, and the new data coming up, that if you just pass by somebody, there's a very less chance of getting COVID. New data says that at least 15 minutes of interaction with a COVID patient actually transferred the particles enough to have the infection.
15 minutes minimum. I
15
mean,
minutes.
again,
Yeah.
I mean,
But
but God
again,
knows,
that
sir,
doesn't
somebody,
mean that for
if
2
the
minutes
room is
you're like
already
very
full and
close
you're
to
not taking
somebody.
care of your mask for that matter, I mean, that is also very important. Dr. Saab, you stay with us and we'll be talking to Irfan Gauri Saab, who's a senior journalist and has written a lot about this particular problem, this disease, this menace. Assalamu alaikum, Gauri Saab.
Walaikum assalam, Faisal.
Sir, thank you very much for talking to PTV World. Gauri Saab, now, this is what we were fearing, that there could be a second wave of COVID-19 in Pakistan. And now the way the numbers are increasing, I think the government should not take it lightly and should consider this alarming. Your take, sir.
Faisal, thank you very much. And first of all, I think we all should salute the doctors and paramedics and the people. And I think the participants who were speaking, the way he is telling that the way they have been dealing and risking their life, they deserve our salute. And they, of course, they do deserve much appreciation. Having said that, it is true that we have been seeing that, and the medical experts, they have been saying there can be a second wave, which was expected, and we have been seeing the second wave in the West and US and in Brazil and other countries. We have been lucky enough that in the first wave, the number of cases and the infections, they were not that much as it was expected. But you would have seen that yesterday, a day before yesterday, Prime Minister also warned the people that we have to follow the SOPs. The number of cases, active cases in Pakistan that was around 6,000 is now near to 10,000. So that means it is a situation where we have to follow those SOPs, especially at a time when the educational institutions, the marriage halls, and other places of gatherings, they have been functioning, as they were before the COVID situation. So there is a need that not only the people, but you always know that in our society we have a very lax and attitude, and we always take the things very casually. And God forbid, we have seen that in our eastern neighbor in India, the situation is really bad. So we have to be careful, and the SOPs, they have to be followed. And the simple SOP that our participant was discussing was the wearing of the mask. And that is something which has to be made mandatory in all public places.
I think that is a very important point you have raised. Now, sir, since normally when you talk about September, October, November, December, even January and February, these are the months of weddings taking place. Normally, this is the season. Now, the Minister for Planning, Development and Special Initiatives, Asad Omar Saab, in fact said that marriage halls, restaurants are becoming COVID hubs. And honestly speaking, sir, I have been out once or maximum, I think, twice to a restaurant. And I have seen that people were not following the protocols. And I'm talking about Islamabad. Yes, the staff or the waiters or other people, they were properly geared up and all. But still, sir, I think we should understand that this is a problem that is existing. And there should be certain mandatory actions taken by the government. For example, in all the public and private offices, if you have let them open, let them work, mask should be a compulsion. Secondly, nobody should be allowed to enter in any place, whether it's a shopping mall or it's a drugstore or it's a wedding hall or any other restaurant for that matter. Nobody should be allowed to enter without, who's not wearing a mask should be kept out. Don't you think certain precautionary measures should be in place and on ASAP basis before it really explodes?
Yes, Faisal, those measures, I mean, just saying to the people that you wear the mask, it would not help. Unless these measures are enforced in a way that, like you said, that the wedding hall, nobody should be allowed to enter and sit in the wedding hall if they are having any function without wearing a mask. Similarly, the trade unions should be involved, and the trade bodies and the business bodies, they should be involved, and a mechanism should be set up that, whoever enters a shopping mall, they should be wearing the mask, and then those plastic sheet or the glass sheet that should be there between the shopkeeper and the customer. So all these measures, and more importantly, is the school. I mean the little kids, the primary and secondary schools. Over there, the kids might not be, they might not be really sensitive about it, or may not have that information. They might not be. It might not be of, they might not be of, particular risk themselves, but they can carry back that virus to their homes. And we have seen that in Punjab and other institutions, in other areas where the institutions, since they have started functioning, they have started reopening. After that, the cases have started increasing. And though the government has been trying, and some of the colleges and schools, they have been closed, but unless precautions are not taken, and the simple precaution is the social distancing and the concept of social distancing and the wearing of masks. This is something which is, I think, it should be made mandatory right away, and there should not be any relaxation to anybody in that matter. And
Absolutely.
if needed, the government may come up with some legislative measure or administrative measure, whatever is needed to do that.
All right. Now, Gauri Saab, you stay with us. Let me also take a comment from Rauf Hassan Saab. Rauf Saab, now schools for kids as old as 6, 7, 8, 9 and 10 years, and then they have a mid-school level, and then you have colleges, and then you have universities and all. Now, sir, forget about the universities where they're not kids, but the responsible youngsters, I would say. But this thing is not in place. You talk about kids, sir. You think that this decision could have been delayed, another 2 months, or maybe start from January 1st or something of that sort, and then, have a proper plan? Because currently what we have witnessed, sir, that online education is useless, because this was the first time Pakistan experimented it, and it could not deliver those results. Because both my kids, I've seen them, they have the gadgets and everything, but they're having a good time at the same time with their friends. I mean, this is the human psychology, because they haven't met their friends in a long time, and obviously this is what they will do. Secondly, sir, now when I see these kids as young as 7, 8, 9, and honestly I had a chance to come to PTV last Thursday, and during the daytime, so ended up seeing so many schools, and so let's not blame the kids. It's beyond their capacity. Don't you think, sir, that decision should be reversed? A, because every kid comes from a different house. Just imagine they mingle and then they go back. God knows, I mean, forget about COVID-19, sir, there could be so many other infections.
First of all, let me say that it is not a question of having SOPs, because the SOPs are there. Let me begin by narrating a story which was narrated to me by a member of the National Assembly. So let me go to the legislature and see exactly what is the attitude of people here. It is mandatory to wear a mask, and I'm going to narrate the story, that dates back to when COVID was really sprawling all around.
April, May.
This April, May, that's right. The member of the National Assembly was sitting there, and as I said, it's mandatory to wear a mask in the National Assembly and in the Senate. And of course, he was wearing a mask. And then this gentleman, who was also a member of the National Assembly, he came and he passed in front of him to take a seat about 2 seats away. And he was not wearing a mask. So this gentleman requested him to wear a mask, and he looked at him, smiled, and, did not. Then he asked him another couple of times. And when that happened, another 2 or 3 times, this gentleman gets up from his seat and comes over to him where this other guy was sitting, who was asking him to wear the mask, and he, shows the palm of his hand, which was carrying a tasbih, and he said, "Sir, this is my mask."
That's
This
good
happened
enough,
in
but
the
still
National
there has
Assembly.
to be some sort
Now,
of precaution.
my question is, first, why was this gentleman allowed to enter the National Assembly without a mask? And 2, even if he had entered the National Assembly, I mean, the Speaker or the Deputy Speaker or other people must have ensured that he wears a mask, if he wanted to sit in the National Assembly. So if this is the attitude of those people who legislate for us, who sit in the National Assembly, or in the Senate, I'm sure there must be such people, similar people in the Senate also.
Yeah.
Then what do you expect of the normal people? So my stress would be on that it is not SOPs, because SOPs are there.
Implementation of the
It is
SOPs.
the implementation mechanism. The schools know that they have to implement the SOPs, but who is overseeing the implementation or not? The restaurants know that they have to implement the SOPs, but who oversees that they are implementing the SOPs? Or the
What's
shadi
going
hall,
on in the
marriage
kitchen,
halls,
what's going
or
on
such
at
other
the
places, basically, you know.
service level, and so on and so
like
forth.
you said, so it is absolutely vital. I mean, the district
So
administration,
you
for
go
example, and I
to
keep
you go to
hearing this.
Islamabad, and
Yeah.
you know exactly where the nice restaurants are. Do you think they are actually following the
They're
SOPs?
not. They're not. I've been to a couple of restaurants
Sir,
of late. and
more
you
than
said-
105 restaurants, marriage halls were shut down in Karachi in one day.
But you see, if they shut
And
down,
including some good restaurants
if they,
in Boating
if they
Basin.
shut down 100, you know, they possibly need to shut down another 500 or 1,000. You know, in Islamabad, let me tell you, virtually every restaurant should be shut down. Because I've gone there a couple of times, you know, in the recent past, and there are friends, you know, who have gone there and narrated these stories. You know, he says they're supposed to be, you know, they're supposed to observe the SOPs, for example, you know, not allowing a certain more than a certain number of people to come to the restaurant.
And what about
There's
the
no check
restrooms?
on
I mean,
that.
how many times are they
There's-
being cleaned?
there's
I
no
mean, that
check
is
on
also very important.
In one of the restaurants, I saw that the waiters were not wearing the masks. In these leading pharmaceutical stores here, let me tell you, come with me tomorrow morning. The people who are behind the counter, they're not wearing masks.
Absolutely, sir.
And when,
They used
when
to.
you-
They
when
used to. Now they're not.
When you ask them, they just laugh it away. It's gone. And of course, people who enter, they're not wearing masks. So, I mean, where is the district administration? I'm just talking about Islamabad. Similarly, district administrations in other cities, for example, you go to Gujranwala, you go to Sialkot, you go to Lalpo. Do you think they're wearing masks? Faisalabad? No, they're not. So, important thing is not that you have to make more rules. The rules are there. What you have to devise, or what you have to sort of, you know, do something about, is that how are you going to make sure that the SOPs are observed?
And you know, sir, I think if proper
those outlets, you
SOPs
know,
are
which
in
not
place
observed.
for at least 2 to 3 weeks and we follow them correctly, honestly, sir, I believe that 90% of the cases would just go away.
Well, they will definitely
Maybe
do
more.
that. And this other part of your question, basically, whether we should delay, whether we should close them down, you know, and possibly we should have delayed the opening of schools and other such places, you know, like
Can
marriage
we
halls and
afford
all
that?
that.
That kids getting sick, sir?
I think since the number is increasing, I think our people, the government, should pay a serious attention to this. I think it will not do irremediable damage, you know, if we were to close down the marriage halls and schools, you know, for another couple of months, maybe as you suggest, you know, till the 1st of January or something, and see through the prospect of this,
There you go.
this feared advent of COVID-19 again. So I think it's important because, you know, in case there is a surge and these schools are open and these marriage halls are open and these restaurants are open, there is a much higher likelihood
Sir,
of
as
people
Dr. Saab said
contracting
that
the infection.
all
you
it
know,
takes
as
is like
compared to-
15 minutes
So-
of conversation.
So we are there for
From
for
A
an
to
hour
B,
to
it could be transferred. So,
an
sir,
hour to 2 hours. A general, I mean, or, an average time that we spend in a restaurant in case we go there is about
An
a
hour?
couple of hours.
An hour?
An hour and a half or so,
yeah.
maybe
And
even
what
more
about
than
the
that.
schools? At least 5
They're about
hours?
5-6 hours.
Yeah,
there.
so there
and
you
they
go.
sit together. They, you know, I mean, you see, I can't.
And they
I mean,
would
I
be
just
touching their
narrated this
lips,
story
they would be
because
hugging each
hugging
other.
each other
And you know, so when they're playing, do you think everybody's going to play with a different ball?
No.
I mean, come on,
No.
you cannot.
No. So there is
No matter what
immense
you do.
prospect, immense prospect, you know, of the surge, you know, of us augmenting the prospect of the surge. So I think we should take precautionary measures in case we have to close down these places. I think we should not hesitate to close down.
I
these
think that
places.
is something very important.
And the second important, let me stress it again, that is the implementation mechanism. You know, even if the district administration has to station people at these outlets at peak hours of business, you know, I think they should do that. Schools, marriage halls, restaurants, and even these large, you know, shops and outlets. You know, I think it's absolutely vital.
Or there should be a certain number.
This is the time.
There should be a, well, you know, a maximum, let's say, if a mall can eventually end up having 5,000 people, they should have 500 people.
Well, if they have to, you have
You know,
to. Because
you'll
it's
have
a
to,
question
well,
of,
yes, sir,
it's
you'll
a
have to
question-
wait.
I mean, we have
Just
we
like a
ha-
parking lot. You
we
know,
have
you can
escaped.
only allow when
We have escaped the first surge of COVID.
Because we were
We may
lucky.
not escape the
Maybe-
second surge of COVID. You know, we should not take it for granted. That open palm of yours is no defense against that. I mean, of course, one should be thankful to God that He has been very kind, but it does not mean that you stop taking care.
Yeah.
And the administration stops ensuring that SOPs are observed. These are the two separate parts of
Now,
the same thing.
very interesting observation when I saw Donald Trump getting out of the
Oh.
hospital. And one day prior to that, he was just waving in a car,
went
wearing
in
a
a car.
mask, and he was waving to the public. And I was thinking about the
He
poor driver who
endangered
was
his
in the
own
car.
security people,
Sir,
drivers, everybody else.
security people. The wife is already sick.
Yeah.
God knows about the kids and the other staff members. Now, whatever they have done, they have actually shifted a
18
hospital
congressmen
inside
have
the
been
White
infected
House.
from that party that he had,
Practically,
18
so-
congressmen.
Sir, just imagine, and this
All these
man
people.
went back to the White House wearing a very nice suit and all. And the first thing he
threw
did,
away his mask.
he took off his mask. And I was watching him on CNN, and everybody was saying, what is wrong with Donald Trump? Because you have to set an example, and he was the one who was never wearing one.
No.
And he would
Fortunately,
take
our
age each
leadership,
and everyone. Now-
our leadership is setting an example. They're very careful. In
Yeah.
fact, I saw the cabinet meeting today.
Everybody's wearing
Everybody
and
was
proper
wearing a
masks.
mask,
I
and a
mean, I
proper
saw
mask,
Omar
you know,
Ayub,
so
I
I
mean,
think
his
it's
mask is a lot
commendable.
bigger than
It's
the
commendable.
US.
It's
Yeah.
commendable.
Now, sir, let me take this point to Dr. Saab. Dr. Saab, in fact, I gave you the example of Donald Trump because he is one of the leaders, and a lot of people believe that because of his this kind of an attitude towards COVID and the way it has spread, and he's not taking the blame for that, he is in fact losing the popularity. And God knows this could end up resulting in a very different outcome of the coming election in November. But now, so this man, when you see him, who is supposed to be the leader, who is supposed to be someone people look up to, gets back into the White House while he is having corona, though his statistics were pretty okay. His blood saturation level was 97, that what was told in the TV by the doctor, and rest of the other, parameters were pretty okay as well. So he was good enough to go back. But is this what he's supposed to do, sir? I mean, I'm just giving you an example of what are people thinking about him, and generally, because the second wave in USA is there.
No. It's not a right example, and the real way is basically you get treated properly, and then he got treated properly, but the monoclonal antibodies he got, nobody, I think only like 275 people in the world have got those antibodies. Not everybody has an access to those monoclonal antibodies. We don't even know they're going to work, but it looks like it worked. He was still short of breath when he walked the stairs. If you watch that video again and again. So that's not a right example. No, if COVID should be taken seriously, this is something people are not understanding. One thing here in even the United States, that even if they get COVID and they get better, 3 days, 5 days, 1 month, everybody's different timings of recovery. But the fear we doctors have that it is some people, not all, in some people it is causing irreversible damage in the lungs. I have a very, like a young guy, he got COVID in July. So no health issues, very smart, thin guy, and now he cannot walk 20 feet because somehow or the other it just damaged the lungs irreversibly. I hope it's reversible, but we don't know yet. It's too new. But that's the fear I have for the patients. There are some patients who come and argue, oh no, even if we get it, it's just going to be a few days. But the question is, what is a guarantee you're going to get a viral disease? There's no guarantee. Number two, there is no guarantee even if you survive this, which 85 to 95 people survive, whether it's going to do an irreversible damage to their lungs. And they don't understand this. They will know it a few years later when they have pulmonary fibrosis, which is like damage or like in the lung area. And that's what we all doctors are feared of. I mean, this disease should be taken seriously. Yes, Pakistan is in million times better condition, but again, we cannot just let our guard down. It means you have to be responsible. See, I mean, God do everything. Yes, Allah can do anything. But again, there are few things, or there are many things which He has asked us to do. It means we have a responsibility as humans to do some stuff. We cannot just leave everything. I'm using an Urdu word in Pakistan which everybody use. Oh, Allah Malik hai. So it means yes, he's God and He can do everything. And but again, we have a responsibility as humans. He has given us the responsibility that you guys do this, and I'm going to take care of you. But if we do not follow what our responsibilities are, we are ending up in a bad situation. If you look up families, even in Pakistan, I've seen, which is where, again, in Pakistan and New Zealand are the two main countries which have the mildest disease in the world, probably. But again, there are families. Once the corona enters a family, it kills one or two or three people. I have one of my family, three members are killed because of corona. So question is how we can take lightly. I'm still surprised when I talk to people in Pakistan. I'm planning to come to Pakistan in December, and everybody's saying, "Oh, there's no corona here, and nobody gonna wear the mask." And people are trying to plan marriages in marriage halls. And I kept telling them, you cannot just do that. You cannot just until unless we have vaccine, we have antibodies. Then we are okay. Then we go back to our regular life. But just few more months. That's my request is.
A few more months, I think. Please.
I have come to learn of
Because vaccine, I hope, is coming soon. I hope the vaccine is so
COVID-19
close.
in hospitals. In hospitals, there's a person, a very dear friend, who was like an older brother to me. He died 4 days ago, and he contracted COVID in a hospital, in one of the leading hospitals here. So it is as bad as that.
Absolutely,
just
sir.
as bad as that.
And you
Sorry,
know,
thank you.
if somebody is sick and somebody is like, let's say, in his 70s or 80s, taking him or her to the hospital means that, you know,
He's gone.
gone. Because
Almost.
number one, sir, very few people or hospitals, they have the right service to operate a
This is
ventilator.
alarming. Sir, this is alarming.
Secondly,
This
sir,
is
the
alarming.
point is that when you talk about the SOPs, because this is something which I think at least this generation and the generation who is currently in their 70s, this is a first time experience, because maybe it was there in 1920s, but nobody has seen that time.
That's true.
The point is now, look at the way people are
out of all
traveling.
places, when it comes to hospitals, I think, it's shocking, absolutely shocking, that instead of curing COVID, they are becoming hotbeds of spreading COVID.
Absolutely,
And
sir.
this is about 3 or 4 cases, which have come
So
to
many,
my
I
knowledge
said
in
these
the
are the
last
known
couple
ones.
of
There are
years.
so many that
And,
people do not
why
even
is it
know.
that the government is not taking
Somebody went to the hospital with a heart attack, ended up dying of pneumonia, and most likely that wasn't
Infections.
pneumonia, that was COVID.
Infections.
Infections. That's what I'm saying.
Infections.
Exactly, sir.
So I think the government must act seriously on this.
Sir, a
definitely.
quick comment regarding the social protection, because Pakistan has been labeled as one of the top-notch countries in the world, sir, when it comes to social protection during these corona times. So let me take a quick comment from Gauri Saab on this. Gauri Saab, your take, sir.
Yes, Faisal, before commenting on that, we have to, I would agree with both the participants and re-emphasize that the government has to make sure, and you have to convey in clear terms that whatever the businesses are, or the educational system, or, if you want to continue, the routine thing, you have to make sure the preventive measures. And remember that when there was, the height of cases in Pakistan few months back, it was just, 5,000 something cases a day. Still, we were so overburdened that the people were not able to, find the facilities. We have very limited facilities, only, I think, 2,000 or something ventilators for this purpose. And in case the situation which we have been seeing in other countries, God forbid, if something like that happened, it would be a nightmare. As far as your question is concerned,
those images
yes,
of Italy,
at that
and
time
UK,
the
they
government
haunt me
had,
even now, even USA.
that they had come up with the aid package, and it helped the people. But again, it's something, it can ameliorate your financial needs, or it can help you a little bit in your financial needs. But when it comes to the health thing, you cannot compromise on that in any case. So it's very important that right now it is time that those SOPs, they should be implemented in letter and spirit.
All right. So primarily, sir, if we may conclude that the government should revisit their policy and should rethink about imposing a proper, smart, whatever lockdown they call it, because I think if this time, if there is any sort of mismanaged, so this is going to go beyond our control.
I think
Last quick comment.
I think a revisit is I think necessary, and I think particularly in the context of putting an implementation mechanism in place, then even if the local district administrations, they have to hire people, or they have to, temporarily sort of take their services, I think it's absolutely vital. And I think there should be heavy penalties imposed without exception on those people who don't
All the
ensure
public-private
observance
offices,
of SOPs and all
I
that.
think they should have a proper chart outside
And
their office
I-
that nobody without a mask should be allowed
And
to enter.
let me
Simple.
request by the people who are there in a position to sort of do this. They must begin from government offices, because let me show you that even in the government offices, these SOPs are not being observed.
Well,
I
sir,
think that is most important.
I
and
agree,
think,
sir. I agree on that,
that's
sir,
very
because
important.
this is something, because you have to protect yourself to protect others. Simple.
right.
Protect yourself to protect your family. Simple equation. This is what it is. If you want your kids to grow and then you want to see them healthy, I think it starts from you then. Anyway, Rauf Saab,
Pleasure,
it was a pleasure
Faisal,
having you,
always
sir.
a pleasure.
Always.
Always a
And
pleasure.
thank you so much, Dr. Saab, for your comments, and also Gauri Saab for your presence in the show as well. And that's all we have for this hour. And I'll see you inshallah tomorrow at 8. Till then, you take good care. Allah Hafiz.